Hello and welcome to the latest edition of our Telemedia vodcast. I'm Paul Skeldon, Editor-in-Chief at Telemedia, and I'm joined by Anzelle Robertson, my colleague in the telemedia world. Anzelle, hi, how are you doing?
Good evening from Johannesburg, Paul. I'm Grand. Thanks. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sort of taking some time to we can chew the fat about some key issues in the industry. And this time I'm looking at investment, particularly investment we've seen in Africa, in technology into Africa, but also going to touch on sort of latterly towards the end about some interesting news around the MVNO model, which we talked about in one of our previous vodcasts. So basically, the sort of the gist of it is that some research that has been put out earlier in the week, this week, mid-February, published by Disrupt Africa, the African Tech Startup Funding Report, finds that investment into African technology companies has picked up over 2025 after 2 years of what they describe as a funding drought for startups. And it makes for quite interesting reading because there's something like $1.64 billion has been pumped into 178 startups in the African region. Now, drilling into it a bit, I mean, the link to the report is in the news story, the link to which will appear on the screen for you. Much of this has gone into fintechs, quite a bit into e-commerce and retail tech, which I think is relevant because I think some aspects of telemedia services are sort of e-commerce like, and some of it into mobility and ed tech and those kind of peripheral things that we do also cover here in the telemedia world. So it's quite an interesting thing, particularly this idea about fintech, because I think there's increasing an overlap between telcos, telecoms, techcos, fintech
Absolutely.
companies all coming together, as you well know from your
Paul,
experience.
100%, Paul. I mean, it was at the November MTN Partner Connect event that, MTN were very clear, they'd always sort of held this position in the past, but here at their event to their partners in Cape Town, sort of adjacent to Africa, they said outright, we're becoming a tech co. Telcos are moving
Mm,
to becoming tech cos, and of course that means they're offering a whole suite of solutions that isn't just anymore being a pipe, being a bind, or connecting or terminating a call or a SMS.
mm,
And that really has to do with to quote their head of digital, it really has to do with being a gateway for the continent, and being a gateway for the consumers to partake in the digital economy. And by just being a telco, you can't be something that implies you're a gateway, because if you're just a telco, you're just connecting a call. So absolutely, I get it from a telco point of view. And then you refer to e-commerce, you refer to mobility. If I just think about what I see when I'm opening my LinkedIn, and I just think about my own network within Africa, I immediately have to think about Hubtel, for example, a Ghanaian-based, again, started as a uh, SMS provider, or a billing provider for, even back then, premium rated services or just connecting SMS. But today run a full suite, sort of e-commerce platform in Ghana, including physical, sort of delivery guys on scooters. And they've evolved clearly in line with where this investment is. If I think about fintech in terms of facilitating payments, I have to think about Beam, I have to think about PowerPay, companies like these who are really on the ground. And I'm hoping that some of this, what was it, 4 billion,
Well,
or
1.46 billion has been invested in
I knew there was a
2025.
four in that, but one of that 1.46 billion had gone to companies like these, because each and every one of these companies, I've been keeping an eye on for the past however many years, and they all come from sort of small, humble beginnings, right? And now they're companies, so they also needed investment at some point in time, and it's great to see. It makes me excited for the continent.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the other way of looking at this as well is that sort of the 178 startups that have received this investment in Africa, 54 of them are fintechs. Now, I think where it gets interesting is a lot of fintech companies, sort of new breed banks, are very much into this idea of of exploiting the MVNO model and offering connectivity and an eSIM as part of their banking service, as we discussed, as I said, in a previous webinar we did, previous podcast we did. I think this is also quite an interesting thing for telcos in the region because this fintech investment, some of that's going to come back to them through MVNO and eSIM services as well. So I think it's a big win for the region, but I think it's also an important thing for the telecoms industry in that region also. So it'd be interesting to watch that. Talking of MVNOs, there's also been some exciting news, I think, because I'm really into the MVNO idea, that Telna, a company, MVNO service provider, is putting up $100 million eSIM growth fund to accelerate development of the eSIM MVNO model for brands and content providers and all that, which again I think is an interesting sort of proposition probably for telemedia players because I think there is going to be a move towards this bundling content and connectivity into a sort of package service
Absolutely.
because that's that's a new way of generating revenue, particularly as airtime based billing begins to sort of dip off. So that there's some
Yes,
interesting funding news out there. I think that like money is being attracted into this sector, which I think, is proof of how exciting it actually is here in telemedia world.
there was a lovely line from our previous conversation, Paul, and it was bundle or be bundled, if you recall.
Yeah,
And
that's right. That's right.
especially with the view on MVNOs. And I love how almost now our conversation, the circle is round
Yeah.
because talking about uh, 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 tech goes and fintechs and talking about companies that have their beginnings in very sort of humble starts. Tenny Stuffman from Vastinets is an excellent example.
Mm,
For the longest time, CEO over at Vastinets, a billing service provider, CEO, spearheading the launch of Labora, Nigeria,
mm.
as an MVNO there to millions and millions and millions of consumers, and that's amazing. It's stuff we love to see, and hopefully. I now very proudly sit here and talk about my network, but let's take an action point on me and on us to get some guest speakers to tell us firsthand about what's happening on the continent.
Absolutely. And obviously, a lot of this will be covered, and that, in our Johannesburg event, which is taking place in June. I guess we're also going to talk about it in Dubai in April as well, because it's the idea of all this sort of transcends those sort of geographical regions. It's everywhere.
Absolutely. I mean, any merchant, regardless of where they're active in, would be interested in the large scale uptake of payment methods or rollout from MVNOs, because MVNOs, of course, also looking for digital content. Um, but I mean, if we just look at the delegate list from Dubai last year, there was no small number of
Mm,
delegates, not only from Africa, but businesses with their core business in Africa, right? So I think that also to us was the overwhelming indicator that there is need and the market is crying out for an event dedicated to the sub-Saharan African region at least. Yeah, thankfully WASPA heeded our call, and now as part of that partnership, as hopefully by now everyone knows, we will deliver Telemedia Johannesburg from the 2nd to the 4th of June. So yes, of course, there's naturally some overlap between Dubai, of course, focused on the Middle East, Turkey, North Africa, but now with the addition of Johannesburg, I think these two events really complement each other
mm.
to be able to speak to what is really I think the two most the most established and highest revenue generating region alongside the fastest growing region. And if you've got those two covered, then I think you've got a solid bit of business covered.
Absolutely brilliant. And we look forward to getting a small but significant slice of that 1.46 billion of investment. Hopefully will come our way. Um, but yeah, all good news. It's I think validating of everything that we do as well because of it's now attracting such a lot of attention. So some interesting news there on the investment front. You can read more about it on the Telemedia Magazine website. So please go over to that. The links will appear below. And thank you very much for listening. I hope it's been useful to you. Anzelle, thank you very much as ever for joining me to talk through this. And we'll see you all again very soon.